Red currant jelly stools. Red currant jelly. What is the meaning of red currant? Red currant is a name of the fruit like strawberry, blueberry. Red currant is a name of the fruit. It will mimic the shape of and color of the red currant. So this is an alarming sign. A previously normal child which is having diarrhea. Diarrhea now stopped. There is no diarrhea, but only mucus and blood is coming out. You have to examine the child carefully. You have to do rectal examination, and you have to do ultrasound abdomen to rule out intussusception. That's why any child in the infancy, diarrhea in infancy, we have to rule out. Especially the child is having dysentery, you have to rule out intussusception. We have to do ultrasound. Why intussusception common in infancy? What is the mechanism behind intussusception? Generally, immediately after birth, our gut is sterile and smooth. As we grow, able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
The reason for intussusception is
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
okay. Our gut is smooth and sterile at birth. As we grow, the villus formation will occur and the Peyer's patch, that is lymphatic system. So lymphatic system in the small intestine, it will grow, it will produce some amount of obstruction. During diarrhea, this bumpy lymphatic tissue will produce some amount of obstruction for the stools while flowing very fastly in diarrhea. That will produce a apex. That will be the apex of the intussusception. That's why after diarrhea, because of the irregular surface of the small intestine, more prone to develop intussusception. So imagination of the one part of the small intestine will enter into the another part. So especially after any episode of diarrhea, the child is having mucus stools and bloody stools, you should rule out intussusception. That is one of the complications after diarrhea. So these are all the history you should ask whether the child is having only mucus stools, only bloody stools, or mucus with the blood, or clay color stools, or greenish and yellow stools. Greenish and yellow stools are normal. Clay color stools and bloody stools, mucus and blood are abnormal. Okay. So history of drug intake. What are the drugs which can cause diarrhea? Previously we are discussing about that drugs which can cause diarrhea. Do you know any drugs? Niveda. Can you tell few drugs which can cause diarrhea? So drug history also very important. Mostly we'll be giving amoxicillin.
Sir.
Yeah. Niveda. Yeah, tell me.
Chemotherapy drugs, cancer
Anti-cancer drugs will produce diarrhea because it will destroy the
drugs.
Mucus and it will destroy the commensal bacteria which can produce diarrhea. Yes. Commonly used drug which can cause diarrhea. Which drug?
Antibiotics.
Antibiotics,
Amoxicillin.
especially penicillin group of drugs. Amoxicillin which will produce diarrhea. Then erythromycin and other macrolides, because erythromycin will stimulate the motilin receptor in the GI tract. Erythromycin and other macrolides will produce motilin receptor. It will increase the motility of the gut. So while using erythromycin, you should be careful, especially in case of neonatal period. We should not use erythromycin. Why? The same mechanism, it will stimulate the motilin receptors. That will increase the pyloric muscle that can produce pyloric stenosis. So erythromycin should be used cautiously in case of neonatal period. It can stimulate the mucin receptor. It will produce pyloric stenosis. That is congenital hypertrophic pyloric stenosis. Though it's called as congenital, it will not be present at birth. It will be presented later. That is around 4 to 6 months of age. Congenital hypertrophic pyloric stenosis. What is the peculiarity of the congenital hypertrophic pyloric stenosis? Congenital hypertrophic pyloric stenosis. Nishant. Nishant, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The peculiarity is mostly it will affect the firstborn male child. Congenital hypertrophic pyloric stenosis will affect firstborn male child, number one. Number two, all the surgical conditions which will produce intestinal obstruction will produce biliary vomiting. That is bilious vomiting, bile stain vomiting, yellow vomiting. That is jejunal atresia, ileal atresia, valvulus, malrotation will produce bilious vomiting. Vomiting which will contain bile. But in case of congenital hypertrophic pylorosis, pyloric stenosis will produce non-bilious vomiting. Why? All the surgical intestinal obstruction conditions will produce bilious vomiting. If the child is having bilious vomiting, first thing you should rule out is any intestinal obstruction. So normally vomiting will be watery or it will contain food particle only. If the vomiting has got bilious or yellow color, we should rule out intestinal obstruction. The only intestinal obstruction which will produce non-bilious is congenital hypertrophic pyloric stenosis. Why? Ishan, the mic off on that. Why?
Sir, pyloric is obstructed, sir. The bilious cannot flow
Yeah,
upwards.
obstruction is above the level of ampulla of Vater or second part of duodenum. So the obstruction is below the level of second part of duodenum, you will have bilious vomiting. If the obstruction is above the level of duodenum, second part of duodenum, the vomiting will not contain bile because bile cannot enter above the level of obstruction. So child which has got a severe vomiting, non-bilious, firstborn male child, and after feeding, child will have VGP and VIP. What do you mean by VGP? VGP and VIP. Vikram. Vikram, what do you mean by VGP? What do you mean by VIP?
Don't know, sir.
Visible gastric peristalsis and visible intestinal peristalsis. So after feeding, child will have visible gastric peristalsis and visible intestinal peristalsis. So while taking history in diarrhea, we should ask about vomiting also. So whether the child is having vomiting. Vomiting means whether it's projectile or non-projectile. So what do you mean projectile? What do you mean by non-projectile?
The vomiting which
It's forceful.
does not show any symptom, which
Yeah.
does not show nausea, it is
Without
projectile
nausea,
vomiting.
and it's coming with a forceful, with the force, that is projectile. Without nausea is projectile. Can you tell any condition which can produce projectile vomiting without nausea?
Intracranial pressure, any increase in intracranial pressure can cause
Raised
projectile
intracranial tension, any intracranial space occupying lesion, ICSOL, any space occupying lesion. In case of pediatrics, meningitis, encephalitis also increase the intracranial tension. Hydrocephalus, these are all the conditions which can increase the intracranial tension that can produce projectile vomiting. So type of vomiting, whether projectile or non-projectile, whether mixed with the food or not, whether mixed with the bile or not, whether mixed with the blood or not. These are all the history you should ask about the vomiting. Okay. So how will you assess the severity of dehydration in a child? In case of vomiting or in case of diarrhea, how will you assess the severity? Vikram.
By seeing the signs, sir, skin turgor, the sunken eyeballs, sir.
So to examine head to foot first. In adult, there is no need to, or in older children, there is no need to examine the anterior frontal. But in case of infancy, you should always mention about anterior frontal, especially
Okay, sir.
for diarrhea. You should never fail to mention about the status of
Okay,
anterior
sir.
frontal, otherwise you will be failed, because anterior frontal will give a clear clue whether the child is having dehydration or not. That should be
Okay,
always over the surface, flush to the surface. If it is depressed, means the
Okay,
sign
sir.
of dehydration. So normally there will be pulsation seen in the anterior fontanelle. That's not pathological. Absence of pulsation or depressed anterior fontanelle is pathological. Okay. So in case of infancy, always examine from head. Okay. So when will the anterior fontanelle close? So it will be
After
around
2 years, 18 months.
15 to 18 months. 18 months is the upper limit.
18 months.
So beyond 18 months, you should examine and you should rule out some of the conditions like. So beyond 18 months, if the anterior frontal is open, we should rule out certain conditions like hypothyroidism, then hydrocephalus. The hydrocephalus is preventing the closure of the anterior fontanelle. So something is keeping it open. So anterior fontanelle, most common condition is
Say,
hypothyroidism and hydrocephalus. So premature closure is possible with some of the conditions like craniosynostosis. Craniosynostosis, even without the maturation of the brain or growth of the brain, it will close spontaneously. That is called as craniosynostosis. And in case of microcephaly also, it will close. Okay. So head to foot, you should examine the anterior fontanelle. You should examine the eyes, mouth, and skin turgor. Last but not the least, amount of urine output. You should ask in the examinations. So I told already, you may be missed it. So Navina, definition of oliguria, anuria, and polyuria. Can you tell?
Sir?
Definition of oliguria,
Yes, sir.
and polyuria.
Anuria less than 0.5
Yes.
less than 0.5 ml per kg per hour.
Yeah. Then polyuria.
Less than polyuria, oliguria less than 1 ml.
Yes.
Polyuria more than 4 ml.
Okay. More than 4 ml per kg per hour or more than 96 ml per kg per day is polyuria. Multiply with 24 hours. So more than 1 ml, less than 1 ml per kg per hour or less than 24 ml per kg per day is oliguria. Less than 0.5 ml or 0.5 ml and less than 12 ml per kg per day is anuria. So you should know the definition of oliguria, anuria, and polyuria. Okay. So urinary output also you should ask about the. If the child is wearing pampers or any nappy, you should ask how many times wet. It's normal or abnormal. You should ask about the urinary output also. So depending upon the severity, our management will differ. So in case of no dehydration and some dehydration, we can easily treat with the. What is the treatment modality for no dehydration and some dehydration? Vikram.
So, we can give home available fluids.
And HMF and ORS, home available fluids.
Okay.
And ORS.
And for some dehydration, we can give ORS.
ORS. Yeah, okay. Severe dehydration.
We have to hospitalize and give IV fluids, sir.
ORS plus IV fluids. You can give ORS. If not taking through mouth or vomiting or dehydration severe, you have to give IV fluids. So what will be the IV fluid of choice?
Ringer lactate.
Ringer lactate and normal saline. Why Ringer's lactate is preferred over normal saline?
Sir, because glucose is absorbed with your sodium.
Glucose is absorbed in the presence of sodium chloride. That's okay. Even normal saline also contain only chloride only. Sodium and chloride doesn't contain glucose. Number one. Number two. So diarrhea produces acidosis by means of loss of bicarb in the stools. What type of acidosis? Will diarrhea produce acidosis or alkalosis? Diarrhea with severe dehydration is a metabolic disorder.
Metabolic acidosis.
It will produce metabolic acidosis. What type of metabolic acidosis? Acidosis can be divided into normal anion gap or high anion gap acidosis. Diarrhea will produce which type of acidosis? எல்லாமே வீட்ல போயிட்டீங்க. Ishant.
High, sir. High.
So diarrhea and renal tubular acidosis, RTA. You know renal tubular acidosis? These are all the conditions and some
Yes, sir.
GI tract abnormalities will produce normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So any condition which produces loss of bicarb from the body will produce normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. Any condition which will increase H plus in the circulation, like Iveta, tell me two conditions which will increase the H plus. That is high anion gap metabolic acidosis.
Respiratory acidosis, sir.
No. We are talking about metabolic acidosis only. In metabolic acidosis, there are two types. One is normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. Another one is high anion gap metabolic acidosis. Normal anion gap metabolic acidosis is diarrhea and renal tubular acidosis. Normal means there is no addition of H plus, only loss of bicarb. So loss of bicarb produces acidosis. That is normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. If you add H plus to the circulation by means of poisoning, ethylene glycol, methylene glycol poisoning, salicylate poisoning, and diabetic ketoacidosis, it will produce lot of H plus ions. So DKA is one example for high anion gap metabolic acidosis. Poisoning, salicylate poisoning, ethanol poisoning, is another condition will increase the H plus in the circulation. Any condition which will increase the H plus is high anion gap metabolic acidosis. Any condition which will reduce the bicarb is normal anion gap metabolic acidosis. So diarrhea will produce acidosis. That is sure. Some dehydration will not produce. Severe dehydration will produce acidosis because compensatory mechanism cannot compensate for the rapid loss of bicarb in the stools. So while giving IV fluids, Isotonic solution should be the ideal choice. Normal saline and Ringer's lactate are the isotonic solution. So can you tell me some example of hypotonic solutions? Navina, hypotonicity.
3% normal saline.
Hypo, H-Y-P-O, not hyper. So there are three: isotonic, hypotonic, and hypertonic. We are using isotonicity fluid for diarrhea and other dehydration. We should not use hypotonicity and hypertonicity fluid. So hypotonic example is 5% dextrose. Only dextrose containing fluid will be hypotonicity. 5% dextrose or dextrose normalicin like DNS. 5% dextrose, 10% dextrose or DNS or hypotonic fluid. And mannitol is a hypertonic fluid. And hypertonic salines, that is 3% sodium chloride is otherwise called as hypertonic salines. This is also hypertonic fluid. We should not use hypotonic or hypertonic, we should use isotonic. So isotonic means it should equal to our plasma osmolarity. Niranjana, what is a normal plasma osmolarity? Niranjana. Plasma osmolarity. What is a normal plasma osmolarity? Osmol. Milliosmol. So it will be around 285 milliosmol. So any fluid which has got a osmolarity around 285 will be isoosmolar solution. Okay. So WHO ORS is now it's isoosmolar. Previously it's a hypertonic ORS. What we are using is now is isotonic ORS. Previously we were using hypertonic ORS because what is the reason? We have reduced the sodium content in the latest. We have reduced the sodium content and osmolarity content of the ORS now than what we used previously. Why? Because initially ORS was devised or ORS composition was said to treat diarrhea due to cholera. The large episode of cholera killed so many people. People are not able to reach the hospital and they died because the only treatment available was IV fluids. IV fluids was not available in the village settings and other things. So many people died due to diarrhea. Then they devised the ORS which can be administered in the village setup also. Initially, cholera stools will produce more amount of sodium in the stools. Loss of sodium will be more in case of cholera stools. So initial ORS was rich in sodium. Later, we are not treating cholera anymore. Now we are treating only viral diarrhea. Viral diarrhea will produce more of water loss rather than sodium loss. So there are two conditions in dehydration. One is hypertonic dehydration, another one is hypotonic dehydration. Do you know that? Nishant?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there are two types of dehydration. One is hypotonic dehydration, means both sodium and water is lost equally. That is hypotonic dehydration. Hypotonic means sodium is lost, dehydration is lost. Both are lost. That is hypotonic dehydration. Some cases, water loss is more than the sodium loss. So sodium is retained and water is lost more. Or some of the food or some of the preparations of ORS. Instead of mixing with 1 liter, they may mix with 250 ml. We should always mix it with 1000 ml. If you mix it with 250 ml, then it will contain more sodium that can produce hypertonic dehydration. The sodium will be more in the body, but child will have dehydration. What is the hallmark of hypertonic dehydration? What is the finding which will be seen in the hypertonic dehydration? The skin will be doughy. It's like a doughy feel. Skin pinch. While examining the skin pinch, the skin will be doughy like. So the skin turgor is lost, but if you feel the skin, it feels like a dough. Doughy means mavu maricom. If you feel the doughy feel, then the sodium content will be more than the water. So that is called as hypertonic dehydration. There are two types of dehydration, hypotonic and hypertonic dehydration. What we encounter is normally hypotonic dehydration. Very rarely you can see hypertonic dehydration. In that situation, while giving sodium, you should be careful. It can produce hypernatremia and it can cause a lot of complications due to hypernatremia. Okay. So ORS, you should know the history of ORS. What are the various available ORS, super ORS and other ORSs? Why we reduce the sodium content? Why we increase the potassium content? Why we reduce the osmolality? You should know. Because bacterial diarrhea, cholera diarrhea will produce more sodium loss in the stool, and viral diarrhea will produce less sodium loss in the fluid in the stool. That's why we have reduced the sodium content. Also, the palatability will increase if you reduce the sodium content of ORS. What we are using WHO ORS is less in sodium than the previous ORS. So, what about the other treatment? So, there are only two modalities for treating diarrhea. One is rehydration with either ORS or IFAs plus zinc supplementation. That's all. That is the treatment for diarrhea. Diarrhea require only two treatments. One is rehydration, another one is zinc. So what will be the dosage of zinc, Niveta? What will be the dosage of zinc and how many days you have to use?
Sir,
Dosage of zinc in diarrhea. Zinc can prevent diarrhea.
sir, don't know, sir.
Okay, I'll tell. So zinc is a micronutrient which should be replaced very often. It cannot be stored in the body. So whenever the child is having diarrhea, whenever the child is having any illness, you have to replace. Deficiency of the zinc will produce. What is the condition called as? Deficiency of zinc. Acrodermatitis enteropathica. Acrodermatitis enteropathica. Zinc deficiency will lead to the condition called as acrodermatitis enteropathica. And during diarrheal episode, because of loss of fitness and other substances, child will have zinc deficiency. So we have to give zinc for 14 days, irrespective of the diarrhea period episodes. Child may be asymptomatic even after 2 days. So you should not stop the zinc for 14 days. First, it will reduce the present episode. Next, it will prevent the future episodes. So we should give 14 days. The duration will be 14 days. What will be the dose? So dose is less than 6 months. It is not depend upon the weight of the child. Depends on the age of the child. If the child is less than 6 months, you should give 10 milligram. 10 milligram per day, not per kg. 10 milligram per day for 14 days. The child is more than 6 months, it should be 20 milligram per day for 14 days. So less than 6 months, more than 6 months. That's all. So even though the diarrhea stopped on day 4 or day 5, you should continue to give till 14 days of the. You should complete the course up to 14 days. That is 2 weeks you should give. So what is the difference between acute diarrhea and chronic diarrhea? Mostly we'll be dealing with acute diarrhea only. Sometimes chronic diarrhea may come to the OPE. The definition will be the same 14 days. So 14 days you can easily remember. The diarrhea occurs up to 14 days is acute diarrhea. Beyond 14 days is chronic diarrhea. Any diarrhea which lasts beyond 14 days is chronic diarrhea. And zinc dosage also only for 14 days. You have to give for 14 days. The child develops diarrhea after 3 or 4 months. After that, also we have to start the course. We have to complete for 14 days because zinc cannot be stored in the body. We have to replace whenever it is required. Zinc and the ORS, that is the mainstay of treatment. Adjuvant treatments are prebiotic and probiotic substances. So, Nasrin, what is prebiotic? What is probiotic? Prebiotic and probiotic. Very important. They will ask about prebiotic and probiotic. Role of prebiotic and diarrhea. The role of prebiotic and probiotic diarrhea is mainly in antibiotic-induced diarrhea. Antibiotic will destroy the common salts in the GI tract. So we have to replenish with the commensal bacteria, that is good bacteria. Antibiotic will kill all the bacteria, good bacteria and bad bacteria. Pathogenic bacteria, it will kill pathogenic bacteria also. It will kill the commensals also. So we have to replace with the commensals by giving pre and probiotic. Nishant, so what is prebiotic? What is
Yes, sir. Sir, it is the substance to induce the growth of the common cells.
Is called as
Prebiotic.
prebiotic. Prebiotic is a non-living substance. Probiotic is a living organism. Pro means life. Okay. Probiotic. Can you tell me the example?
Like bacteria.
So probiotic can be bacteria or fungus. Even fungus also can be a probiotic. Like Saccharomyces boulardii. Saccharomyces is not a bacteria, it's a fungus. Myces means fungus. Saccharomyces boulardii is a probiotic substance. It's a living organism. It's a probiotic. Then bacteria means Lactobacillus GG and other bacteria like so other prebiotic substances. So there are two entities. Able to follow?
Yes, sir.
Prebiotic and probiotic. Prebiotic is a non-living substance. That substance will be utilized by the bacteria, that is probiotic or fungus. So prebiotic substances are inulin and fructooligosaccharides. Fructooligosaccharides and inulin are prebiotic substances. These are all non-living substances. Prebiotic. Probiotic are living organisms. They can be fungus or bacteria. So probiotic will eat the prebiotic that will produce a symbiotic life in the GI tract. This is called as symbiosis. Prebiosis, probiotic, symbiotic. So we can give prebiotic in case the gut is damaged by either antibiotic or any other pseudo membranous colitis. You have to give pre and probiotic. Okay. So mainstay of treatment will be rehydration, ORS, pre and probiotic. What is the role of antibiotic in diarrhea? Role of antibiotic in diarrhea. Can you use antibiotic in diarrhea? Generally,
Dysentery.
we should use only in dysentery and if visible blood and mucus is present, we should use antibiotic. In watery diarrhea,
Yes,
there is no need for antibiotics except there are some exceptions. Number one is parental diarrhea. So parental diarrhea means infection is other than the GI tract, like child may have CSOM, child may have dental caries, child may have urinary tract infections, child may have cellulitis somewhere that produces toxins which can cause diarrhea. This is called as parental diarrhea. In case of parental diarrhea, you can give antibiotics. Number one. Number two, neonatal period. Child is in the neonatal period with diarrhea. Child may have sepsis, so you should give antibiotics. Number three, immunocompromised individuals, like child is having HIV infection, child is having taking anti-cancer drugs, a child is on steroids. You should give antibiotics. Then pseudomembranous colitis. Also, you can give antibiotics. These are all the conditions. In watery diarrhea, you can give antibiotics in exception only. In general, we are not supposed to use antibiotics in watery diarrhea. We can use antibiotics in dysentery. So, what will be the drug of choice in case of dysentery? Generally, we use cefixime and other cephalosporin drugs in case of dysentery. Ceftriaxone and cefixime. And protozoa, we have to use anti-protozoal drugs like metronidazole and other tinidazole, norfloxacin and other drugs for protozoal diarrhea. So, viral diarrhea, no need for antibiotic. Watery diarrhea, no need for antibiotic except some conditions. And dysentery and bacterial diarrhea, you can use antibiotic. And protozoal illnesses, you should use anti-protozoal drugs. So how will you prevent diarrhea in the infancy? This is the leading cause of killer in infants. How will you prevent diarrhea? Prevention is the final step. How will you prevent diarrhea? So hygiene is the mainstay of prevention of diarrhea. Another one, next comes vaccination. So what is the vaccine which can prevent diarrhea?
Rotavirus.
Rotaviral vaccination.
Rotavirus.
Vijayalakshmi, how will you give rotaviral vaccination? Vijayalakshmi.
Oral.
Sir,
Vijayalakshmi, how will you give rotaviral vaccine?
oral, sir.
Oral. So it should be oral. Oral polio and rotavirus should be given orally. What is the important precaution while giving rotaviral vaccination? What is the upper age limit? For any vaccination, catch-up vaccination is possible. If you miss a vaccine, you can give it later. If you miss a vaccination at 45 days of age, 45 days, that is first dose, you can give later, 6 months also you can give, 8 months also you can give. But in case of rotavirus, we should not postpone the rotavirus vaccination. Why? You should give correctly. You should give 1.5 months, 2.5 months, 3.5 months, or 1.5 months and 3.5 months. You should not give. You should not start from 7 months or 8 months onwards. Why? What is the important side effect of rotavirus if you give late? No. So if you give after 8 months or 9 months first dose, it will produce intussusception. It can produce intussusception because already the gut wall is, as I told earlier, initially it will be sterile, so you should give earlier. Then only it will not stimulate the growth of the Peyer's patch. If you give around 8 months or 9 months, already the gut is more prone for intussusception during diarrheal episodes or any movement. So ideally, we should finish the rotavirus vaccination before 8 months. This you should remember. Catch-up vaccination is not possible with the rotavirus. Catch-up vaccination, you should not give rotavirus. That point you should remember. So for any other vaccination, catch-up vaccination is possible. If you miss the vaccination at 2 years of age, you can give it at 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. But rotavirus should be completed before 8 months. Before 7 months, you should complete. Okay, so it should be given through oral route. So last examination, some persons told intramuscular, some told intradermal, subcutaneous, like that. So you should not commit the mistake. Rotavirus is not a injectable rotavirus, it's a oral rotaviral vaccine. What are the other oral vaccinations available except rotavirus and polio?
Vitamin A can be given.
It's not a vaccine. I'm talking about vaccination. Vitamin A can prevent diarrhea. Yes. So one of the prevention methods. I'm asking about orally available vaccines. Typhoid vaccine. Typhoid vaccine is available through oral route, but we are not using in India. It's capsule. Typhoid vaccine can be given through capsule, and cholera also can be given through capsule. Okay. So other modalities by giving vitamin A. Vitamin A is very important for the integrity of the gastrointestinal mucosa and respiratory mucosa. Vitamin A supplementation will prevent URI and GI tract problems like diarrhea. Then measles vaccination. Measles vaccination also will prevent diarrhea because post measles diarrhea is very common. Measles is like a, what is the adjective? Measles is like a Vikram. Measles is equivalent to mini AIDS, mini HIV. It will momentarily produce HIV-like situation. That is, it will rapidly reduce the immunity of the child. Child will be more prone to develop pneumonia, diarrhea, and other skin lesions. So, if you give measles vaccination, we can prevent pneumonia, we can prevent diarrhea. Okay, two vaccinations which can prevent diarrhea is number one is measles, number two is rotavirus vaccination, and vitamin A supplementation also will prevent diarrhea and proper hygiene. Always try to give only clean, potable drinking water and boiled milk, pasteurized milk. Okay, what are the ill effects of giving raw milk? It can
TB.
salmonellosis, shigellosis, and diarrhea, dysentery. Important one is brucellosis. Brucellosis. If the cow is having brucella infection, cow will be asymptomatic, but it can cause brucellosis in the child. So never ever give raw milk to the baby. Okay. Then, so what are the other modalities which can prevent, which can reduce the diarrhea? So you should not do native medications. They will do native medication. In case of diarrhea, there are some myths. During diarrhea, they will not give anything to eat or anything to drink. So dehydration. During rehydration is the mainstay of treatment, but they will keep the child without food. That will worsen the dehydration. So you should increase the feeding episodes. You should continue to give the breast milk, and you should increase the feeding episodes. And you should reach the hospital immediately. These are all the prevention methods which can prevent death in diarrhea. Okay. So points you should remember is genesis and origin of ORS, and how will you treat with the IV fluids, the dosage of ORS and dosage of IV fluids, dosage of zinc, preventive methods, word about rotavirus vaccination, and drugs used in diarrhea, antibiotics. What are the antibiotics which can be used in diarrhea? Okay, and prebiotic and probiotic. Probiotic, not only bacteria, you should remember, even fungus also used as probiotic. Probiotic is the only living organism. Prebiotic is a non-living substance. It's not equal. Prebiotic and probiotic are not equal. They are different entities. You should remember. Okay, any doubts?